Welcome back, my friends. I hope you had an excellent Memorial Day weekend. I had a okay Memorial Day weekend. Let me tell you a bit about it. Well, you see, I was invited to this weed festival. I didn't know it was a weed festival when I was being invited to it, um, but I found out about it eventually as time went on. But I made a friend. A friend invited me to this weed festival. I went to this weed festival over the weekend. It lasted the whole weekend, Friday through Monday. I had to work on Friday. I didn't go there till Saturday. But I got there and weed everywhere. It was awesome. I've never seen so much weed in my life. Absolutely amazing. Lots of vendors and they had food, really good food, and um, a very chill atmosphere. Of course, they had music. They had live music, DJs. They had some dancing. Of course, it was, from my understanding, um, now. Well, let me remain on track. I I heard it was going to get crazy at the after party. You know, after all the vendors were shut down and everything, and all the live music and all that. It was supposed to get crazy fun. I'd never been to one of these things before. You have to understand. I'm very sheltered, homeschooled 18 years, a missionary kid for 10. So I didn't know what 100% to completely expect, but I had a good idea. I mean, I'm 31 now, so I had a rough idea of what was supposed to go down. I stayed up till 11 o'clock Saturday night, and it was a bit cold. It was all in the woods, and well, it was chilly. I ended up buying an extra hoodie, and from one of the vendors there, super expensive, but it was one of those Rastafarian ones, the red and the green and the yellow, and the no, there's no orange. But it's that nice woolly, warm material and such. Quite a nice purchase amongst the excellent prices at weed. But yes, I at 11 o'clock, it appeared that everyone was going to bed. So and I was cold and tired, so I went to bed too. And well, I heard nothing about it the next day. Oh yes, the friend. As time progressed, there were volunteers for this event, of course, running it and such, and my friend was working the front gate, and volunteers to replace my friend did not show up, and this friend was the only person I knew at this event. And this person ended up getting stuck at the post the entire time for the entire festival. And because I'm an introvert and I wasn't really prepared to be around about I wasn't prepared to be around a bunch of strangers and having to introduce myself. So it and well, the second night came and went no differently. In fact, I went to bed even earlier that night. And then, of course, I found out the next morning, as I was packing up my vehicle to leave, that Yes, I did miss quite a bit of action. Probably both nights. I didn't get any details. But rookie mistake, I camped in the wrong spot. I didn't even have a tent, honestly. I camped out in my car. And the car wasn't even parked that far away from all the other events. Plus, it was much warmer to sleep in. But all the action apparently happened a bit later than 11. I'm also very used to going to bed and getting up at a very regular time because of my job. So it's kind of hard for me to stay up after 10 o'clock without starting to get tired. And I was not prepared to stay up till 3, 4, 5, 6 in the morning. There were a few other good things that came out of that weekend, but by the time I got there, I was really looking forward to all that shit, and well, because of my own naivety and I don't know how to sum it up in one word, but I completely missed it. It was a good Memorial Day weekend for me, but it wasn't fun. Like I didn't really. I smoked a lot of weed, but I didn't really have fun. I didn't have an ounce of fun really. But the location does multiple events throughout the year. I will probably. No, I will be going back. I will be trying it again. And maybe I will have some real stories to tell this time next year. Who knows? I may even have some stories by September. So I trust your weekend was better than mine. So yeah, and yes, this weed, I did buy it from that festival. And I decided to break it out today, partly for Memorial Day weekend, partly because all my weed cartridge batteries are dead. Except for the one that I am currently too lazy to go out to my car and get. But also because today we are finishing the book of Exodus. But before we continue any further, this series is called The Good, the Bad, and the Bible, where we dissect the Bible, take it at face value, talk about what's good and worth following and what's bad, what's shady, what is suspicious of the Bible, and we talk about it here. We expose all the dirty things that the Bible has to say, and we have quite a good time. Well, at least I do. I'm an ex-Christian, used to be a missionary, was homeschooled. My father used to be a military chaplain as well, went to Bible seminar, all that jazz. So I'm quite familiar with this book. I was trained to preach it even. I know how to write a sermon. I might even do a like a non-religious sermon on here sometime. A sermon Christians will understand. Something in their lingo. I would really have to write it out though. But that's what we do here. We have fun. Sometimes I drink alcohol, but I also like to smoke weed. My name is Rogan, and you or watching the mysterious stoner in a boner. And like I said, we are going to finish the book of Exodus today. When I started reading this last time, in preparation for filming, I started at chapter 35, and I kept on going, and there were only 5 chapters left in the book of Exodus. And I went all the way to the end, and I only found 3 things worth talking about. And we're going to talk about those 3 things today. So the first one is in chapter 35. God is speaking to Moses again, of course. And God brings up something he's brought up before. It's the Sabbath day. Yes. Does he have anything new to say about it? No, he doesn't. But he's got something very specific to remind the Israelites of, that he really wants them to know. Verse 2. He says, 6 days shall work be done. Yeah, we heard that before. But on the 7th day there shall be to you, on the 7th day there shall be to you an holy day, a Sabbath day of rest to the Lord. Yes, God, we get it. Whosoever doeth work therein shall be put to death. If you work on the Sabbath day, you're Hebrew, the punishment for catching up on your work on Saturday, or whatever it is, it's death. It even says in the verse right after, it says, ye shall kindle no fire throughout your habitations upon the Sabbath day. You can't even light a fire. So I guess they have to light their fires the previous day and then just keep them burning. But then I don't know how keeping their fires burning doesn't constitute as work. But who am I to say about God's weird ways? Can't even light a fire on the Sabbath day, or you'll die. Or be executed. You'll be killed. Or that's what God thinks you deserve for working on his holy day. Great God. Yeah, I don't see why anyone would want to serve him. And then we have this next bit of interesting piece of information. In the next portion of the same chapter, it starts talking about the Israelites bringing offerings to Moses and to Aaron and the priests. And it's just the way it words it is rather interesting. Verse 21, and they came, everyone whose heart stirred him up, and everyone whom his spirit made willing, and they brought the Lord's offering to the work of the tabernacle, and so on and so forth. And it says again, and they came both men and women, as many as were willing-hearted. And then it says it again, verse 29, the children of Israel brought a willing offering unto the Lord, every man and woman whose heart made them willing to bring for all manner of work. Then it says it again in chapter 36. Verse 2, even everyone whose heart stirred him up to come unto the work of the Lord, to come unto the work to do it. It's in referencing to building the tabernacle, building all the pieces for it. The reason I find this interesting is, just the phrasing, whose heart made them willing. Now, there's a verse I'm going to put up here on the screen, because I don't know the reference off the top of my head, but it says, a Bible reference, the verse says that the heart of the king is in the hand of the Lord, or something like that, to be able to turn it whichever way he wants. And according to the story of the Exodus, where God hardened Pharaoh's heart over and over and over and over again, as well as the Egyptians, that sort of lines up with that verse about the heart of the king being in God's hand. In that same story, God also hardens the heart of the Egyptians to chase after the Israelites. It says it specifically. I believe it's closer to when they go to chase the Israelites to the Red Sea. So God hardens the heart of not only a king, but potentially an entire nation, at least an entire army, to be able to follow the Israelites down into the Red Sea. Very stupidly, I might add. So if God can control the hearts of all these people, it makes it wonder if God is controlling people's hearts here. And if he is he robbing them of their free will? He's moving them to give, but that's not really them giving of their free will now, is it? That's all if this story is true, of course, not saying that it is. But if it were, you have to take into account here, God has slated the Egyptians on their free will over and over again, roughly 17 times. And I realise it doesn't quite outright say that it's God that makes these people willing to give. You can see the connection that I'm making here, right? The heart of the king is in God's hands. God brainwashes the fuck out of Pharaoh, and at the very least his army. But no, he does do the whole nation, actually. Technically, he does, yes. To make them give away all their wealth to the Israelites as they leave. God made them do that. It says God gave the Israelites favor in the eyes of the Egyptians to give them their wealth. So I think it's quite fair to say here that God probably is brainwashing, moving the hearts, if that's how they want to say it, taking away free will. When he took the free will from the Egyptians, who's to say he wouldn't do it here? It may be, it seems like it's just being worded a little bit differently. Just making you think there. Just making you think. But then I didn't find anything else of interest until all the way in chapter 40, towards the very end. Now, you remember last week's episode about Moses seeing God, supposedly, or he's in the cloud or something. Apparently Moses saw the back side of God, or the back 50% of his body, supposedly. But he was in a cloud, so it might have been a bit difficult to see. Could have been a cloud of weed for all we know. Weed laced with LSD to make him trip balls or something. I wouldn't know. I've never had LSD. I was hoping to after this past weekend. But anyways. Point being was, God showed up in a cloud. Well, here at the end of chapter 40 in Exodus, the tabernacle is all built, and Moses has inspected everything, and everything checks out, and it's good, and all the priests have been anointed, and the sacrifices have been made, and now God shows up in a cloud again. Then a cloud covered the tent of the congregation, and the glory of the Lord filled the tabernacle. Verse 35. And Moses was not able to enter into the tent of the congregation, because the cloud abode thereon, and the glory of the Lord filled the tabernacle. Does that make sense to you? Moses survives seeing the backside of God in his supposed all glory. He even comes out of it with his face shining super brightly, supposedly. I call bullshit that it was like a super shiny oil he put on or something, but for the story's sake. He saw God, made his face all shiny and everything because he saw the back 50% of God. But now God shows up in his cloud, again like he did for Moses. He fills the tabernacle, which is it's kind of a large tent, very large tent, a courtyard and an interior and everything. God's glory fills this whole thing, so much so that Moses can't go in. Well, that doesn't make any sense at all. He just survived seeing the backside of God, and this is just the glory of God. It's not even God himself. It's not even his pinky toe. Why couldn't Moses go in? I'm sure he'd be fine. I find it rather curious. Did he have to stay outside of it so he can keep the smoke going in? Was he like fueling the smoke into the tabernacle or something? I don't know. He was a scammer. Who knows how he did these things? That's my opinion anyways of it. So of course Moses wouldn't go in if it was smoke, because it would be bad to inhale. It would kill him. No, no, it's too much. It's the glory of the Lord. You just saw his face yesterday, Moses. Okay, not his face, but you saw his butt, his back, his. You saw something. You saw him, right? Your face is glowing and everything. You should be fine going in there. Go on, Moses, go. Oh. So he'll go off by himself and go see the glory of the Lord and get his face all shiny. But when the glory of the Lord comes to the encampment and descends upon the tabernacle, it's too much for Moses to go in. My nose may be a bit stuffy, but I still smell some bullshit here. Something's a bit off. Something's a bit shady. It's not lining up for me. I mean, I never questioned it before. But when you do question it, it makes you realise people actually believe this? Yes, they do. And I was one of them. And if you would like to check out that story about how I used to be a Christian and how I became deconverted, you can watch all those videos that I've got all set up before. Well, you'll have to go quite a ways back to the beginning. But it's quite a long story because there's a lot to go through. There's a lot to explain due to how I used to believe. And speaking of beliefs, this next week, instead of going into the book of Leviticus, I will be doing what I've decided I think will be a 3-part mini-series of what I currently believe and how I arrived at those beliefs. Well, I will probably have to explain my way into what I believe, starting with some explanations. The first one, which will be next week, I will do my best to post on time, because I'm going to write these out, because these are, I don't know, a little bit extra special compared to these other videos. These videos here are more, they're meant to be more chill, more laid back, but still make you think. These ones about my beliefs and how I arrived at them, a little bit more serious, because some things well, I can't say everything. I don't want to say everything. It would provoke too many questions that I simply do not have the answers for, or have the time to answer the questions that I would have the answers for. So I have to find a way to keep what I'm going to say concise and relatively brief and easy to understand. And organised as well. But the first video is going to be about how I arrived to my morals. And I will explain. That may not seem super important to you, but it is to me. And I will explain why in more detail in the next episode. The next one is going to be I guess you could say philosophical. My philosophical take on existence. It's kind of like philosophy mixed with reality, sort of. It's tricky to say because honestly, I remain forever skeptical of everything I believe myself. I'll have to explain my type of skepticism too. um, that might have to come first, right before the morals, just to clarify some things. But the final video will be about my supernatural beliefs. A little bit regarding experiences. It's not something I'm going to get into super in depth, but enough to express some of my opinions and beliefs. And how I got to those conclusions. Should be a lot of fun, eh? Stay safe, and until next time, my friends, farewell.